Ever walk out of a meeting or end a phone call feeling like, did we even talk to the same species? I swear, sometimes communication feels like its own secret code.
Yeah,
And the worst part is we think we're fluent.
right.
But what if we've been sold this idea that communication is key without getting the actual user manual?
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today.
We're going beyond those surface level tips. This deep dive into the importance of communication in relationships, beyond the conventional wisdom, digs into the fascinating psychology of how we connect, or, let's be honest, often disconnect.
And this isn't just about romantic relationships, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
These insights apply to friendships, work dynamics, even those quick interactions we have every day. And it might surprise you to learn that a whopping 93% of communication is nonverbal. Your body language and tone of voice are doing a lot of talking even before you utter a word.
93%. Okay, that's a bit terrifying when I think of all the shrugs and eyebrow raises I've thrown around. So I'm guessing that slumping in my chair while saying, I'm fine, isn't exactly sending the message of a perfectly content human.
You're onto something.
Okay.
Our bodies betray our words all the time. A forced smile, avoiding eye contact, even the way we're sitting, can completely change how our message is received.
Okay, I need examples. I'm all about actionable intel here.
Imagine you're in a meeting and your colleague is pitching a new idea. They're saying all the right things, but their arms are crossed and they keep clearing their throat.
Oh, yeah.
Their nonverbal cues are practically screaming, I'm not so sure about this.
That's happened to me. I read the room, see the body language, and think this pitch is DOA.
Exactly. And the source material highlights a critical point. Becoming aware of these nonverbal cues, both in ourselves and others, is like unlocking a secret language.
So it's not just about what we're saying, but how we're showing up physically and emotionally. It's like we're all broadcasting on hidden frequencies we don't even realize we're tuned to. But instead of just picking up on everyone else's signals, we need to understand what we're broadcasting to.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what message am I sending without even realizing it?
Ooh.
Are you fidgeting during a job interview? Avoiding eye contact during a difficult conversation? Those subtle cues speak volumes.
I'm already analyzing my every move. This is fascinating, but also making me hyper aware of my every twitch.
Awareness is key, but it's not about overanalyzing. Think of it as fine-tuning your antenna to better understand the entire conversation, not just the words themselves. And this awareness is crucial when we talk about emotional safety, the bedrock of any meaningful connection.
Okay, emotional safety. Everyone wants it, but how do we actually create it? What does that look like in those everyday moments?
Think about a time you felt truly heard, not judged or dismissed, but genuinely understood. That feeling, that's the foundation of emotional safety.
Like when you can confess your weirdest anxieties to your best friend and they just get it. They don't try to fix you, just listen and offer support.
Exactly. But as the source points out, when that emotional safety is absent, even a simple conversation can become a minefield.
Yeah.
Past hurts, unresolved conflicts, they create this undercurrent of tension that can derail even the most well-intentioned dialogue.
It's like trying to have a rational conversation while balancing on a tightrope. One wrong step and everything collapses.
A perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And, it's in those moments when we feel most reactive, most likely to say something we'll regret. So the source suggests shifting our focus from criticism to validation and curiosity.
Okay, easier said than done, especially when you're in the heat of an argument, right? How do we actually put that into practice?
Instead of instantly firing back with a counterargument, consider validating their feelings first.
Okay.
Something as simple as, I understand why you're frustrated,
Yeah.
can be incredibly disarming.
Oh, yeah.
It acknowledges their experience, even if you don't agree with their perspective.
It's like you're saying, hey, I see you. I might not agree with you, but your feelings are valid. That's huge.
Exactly. And alongside validation, cultivating curiosity can completely change the game.
Oh, boy.
Instead of assuming you know where they're coming from, try asking open-ended questions. Help me understand why this is so important to you.
Yeah.
It can completely shift the dynamic from a battle of opinions to a genuine attempt to bridge the gap.
It's about uncovering the why behind the words. I like it. Okay, so we're fine-tuning our nonverbal radar, building emotional Fort Knox over here. What else can we do to level up our communication game?
Well, our source dives into something called attachment styles, which act as blueprints for how we approach relationships and, you guessed it, communication. Think of it like this. Everyone has a default setting for how they connect, and sometimes those settings clash.
Okay, I'm already feeling personally attacked, and I haven't even heard the options yet.
The source describes three main attachment styles: secure, anxious, and avoidant.
Okay.
Now remember, these are just frameworks, not labels.
Right.
But understanding these styles can be like getting a cheat sheet for relationship communication.
Lay it on me. Give me all the intel.
So folks with a secure attachment style are generally comfortable with intimacy. They communicate directly, don't freak out at the first sign of disagreement, and they're good at both giving and receiving reassurance.
Okay, sounds pretty ideal. Sign me up for the secure attachment upgrade.
We all want that secure base, right?
Yeah.
But it's not about achieving some perfect state of being. It's about recognizing that we all come to relationships with different patterns. For instance, someone with an anxious attachment style might crave a lot of closeness and reassurance.
And I'm picturing a lot of texting, a lot of analyzing every interaction, maybe some light stalking of their partner's exes online.
You're not wrong. It comes from a place of wanting to feel safe and secure. But that anxiety can sometimes lead to overthinking and behaviors that unintentionally push their partner away. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have the avoidant attachment style.
Okay, avoidant attachment. That even sounds a little standoffish.
It can seem that way, but it's important to remember that every style is just a coping mechanism. People with this style often value independence, might appear emotionally distant, and tend to withdraw during conflict.
So that friend who disappears for a week after every argument, then acts like nothing happened, could that be an avoidant attachment style in action?
It's possible. It's not that they don't care. It's more that they might feel overwhelmed by intense emotions and need space to process.
Fascinating. So how do we actually apply this knowledge? It's one thing to identify these styles, but how does that translate into better communication?
The key takeaway here is understanding. Recognize your own tendencies, and then consider how your partner's style might be influencing their communication. If you're aware that your partner tends to withdraw during arguments because of their avoidant attachment style, you can approach those disagreements differently.
So instead of taking it personally, maybe give them space to process, then circle back to the conversation when everyone's a bit calmer. It's about adapting our approach based on those underlying patterns.
You got it. It's like learning the language of your relationship. You might not be fluent yet, but you're starting to understand the grammar, the nuances that make your connection unique.
I love that. Relationship linguistics. I'm adding that to my resume. Now, we've covered so much ground already. Nonverbal cues, emotional safety, attachment styles. Is there anything else we need to be mindful of in our quest for communication mastery?
Absolutely. This source also highlights something that's often overlooked: timing.
Oh, timing is everything. Trying to have a serious conversation during the commercial break of your partner's favorite show, rookie mistake. Been there, done that, ended in tears.
Yeah, I think we've all been there at some point. And there's a scientific reason why timing is so crucial. When we're emotionally flooded, our brains go into fight or flight mode. Our rational thinking goes out the window, and we're more likely to say or do things we regret later.
It's like trying to have a calm discussion while riding a roller coaster. Not gonna happen.
Exactly. So the source suggests practicing what's called emotional regulation.
Okay, so not suppressing our emotions, but managing them in a way that allows for healthy communication. Because let's be real, sometimes we need a minute or 10 to cool down before we can even think straight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing when you're reaching your emotional capacity and having the self-awareness to say, you know what, I need a minute to collect myself before we continue this conversation.
It's like hitting the pause button instead of letting things spin completely out of control. Gives everyone a chance to breathe and come back to the conversation with a clearer head.
Exactly. Think of it this way. You wouldn't try to fix a car engine while it's still running right. Sometimes we need to give ourselves that same courtesy in emotionally charged situations.
I like that analogy. Speaking of approaching things with a cool head, we can't talk about communication without talking about the fine art of listening. And I don't just mean nodding along while mentally planning your grocery list.
Right. The source dives deep into the concept of true listening, what it calls empathic engagement.
Okay.
It's about going beyond simply hearing the words and really stepping into the other person's experience.
I've definitely been guilty of listening just enough to formulate my response. But how do we actually shift from that reactive listening to this deeper level of engagement?
It starts with quieting that inner problem solver. Instead of jumping in with solutions or advice, try reflecting back what you're hearing. It sounds like you're feeling really overwhelmed and unsupported right now.
So it's not about parroting their words, but reflecting their emotional state back to them.
Exactly. When you acknowledge the feelings beneath the words, it shows a level of understanding that goes beyond simple advice giving. It tells the other person, I see your pain, I get it. And sometimes that validation is more powerful than any solution you could offer.
It creates space for them to feel truly heard, which is something we all crave, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of things we crave, the source also emphasizes the importance of clearly communicating our needs.
Oh, this is huge. How many arguments could be avoided if we just got better at expressing what we need instead of hoping our partner will develop mind-reading abilities?
Right. We fall into that trap of assuming our loved ones should just know. But the truth is, no one is a mind reader. The source encourages us to ditch the hinting and hoping and move towards direct communication using I statements.
I am all about I statements. It's like that old saying, speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. But in this case, it's less about being bold and more about being clear and direct without blaming the other person.
Precisely. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, try, I feel unheard when I don't get a response after sharing something important to me.
It takes some practice, but framing things that way can make all the difference. It's about collaboration, not combat. Now, even with the best communication skills, misunderstandings are bound to happen. We're human, after all. So what's the secret to navigating those inevitable communication breakdowns?
It comes down to repair. The source emphasizes that conflict itself isn't the enemy. It's the inability to repair those ruptures that can damage a relationship.
So it's less about never fighting and more about learning how to fight fair.
Exactly. Couples who are good at repair, apologizing for their part, expressing understanding for the other person's perspective, even using humor to diffuse tension. Those couples tend to have stronger, more resilient relationships.
It's about seeing disagreements not as catastrophes, but as opportunities to learn and grow together.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great note to end on. Remember, communication isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's about showing up with curiosity, compassion, and a willingness to truly understand the people we care about most.
It's about bridging those gaps one conversation at a time. This deep dive has given me so much to think about. And hey, if I can prevent even one text message meltdown in the future, I'll call that a win. Until next time, everyone, happy communicating.